The trigger action helps you make decisions and filter information by comparing the contents of an incoming event with predefined rules. You can use the trigger action to ignore events that don't require processing, to send events to other actions for additional analysis, or to further process events that are sent from a particular application. To configure a trigger action, begin by dragging and dropping it onto your storyboard. Rename your action so you can easily identify which part of your workflow it's responsible for executing. In the options block to your right, the rules array contains sets of type, path, and value fields. In type, you should specify the type of rule to be applied to the incoming event. There are 10 types of rule you can use, including regular expressions and number comparisons. In the value field, specify the regular expression, number, or array, depending on the rule type. Remember that regular expression patterns are matched case insensitive. If one or more values match, then the rule will pass. You'll find examples of common trigger actions in the Action Template library. In the path field, you should specify the JSON path for the field containing the value you want to check. For example, imagine I have a trigger action that receives an event like this, and I only want the trigger action to emit an event when the role field contains CEO. All other received events should be ignored. In the path field of my trigger action, I would enter .receive events .body .role. You can add any number of rules to a trigger action's options, allowing you to make more granular decisions. By default, all rules must match for the action to emit an event. You can switch this so that only one rule must match by creating and setting the must match field to 1. By default, when a trigger action runs, an event will only be emitted if the rules match. But you can add an emit no match field and set it to true so that an event will also be emitted if the rules do not match. The rule matched true-false field added to the emitted event can be referenced and used to make decisions later in the story. Let's run through some example trigger actions. Given this HTTP request action, imagine we wanted to make a decision based on whether the status in the emitted event was 200 or something else. We'd first create a trigger action with a rule type of field equals value. We'd set the path to make request.status, and in the value, we'd put 200. This trigger action will emit an event when the event emitted by the HTTP request action contains a status code of 200. Next, we'll create another action to emit an event when the received event does not contain a 200 status. Copy and paste the existing trigger action, or simply hold down the Alt key and drag. Now change the rule type to field !equals. This tells the trigger action to emit an event when the status code is not equal to 200. Say we want a trigger action to emit an event when a received alert has a risk score greater than 10 and has a category of VPN. We'll connect a trigger action to the webhook and create 2 rules. In the first, we'll use the rule type field greater than or equal to value. For the second, the rule will be regex, and we'll set a value of VPN. Finally, imagine we want to emit an event if the alert has a risk score of at least 20 or was related to the VPN. We could simply take the event and add must match with a value of 1. As always, full documentation describing all trigger rule types in detail is available on the Tynes docs site.